Sorry about that. That is part of having boundaries. You have to do these things. My husband calls me. It's obviously important. He's at church. I take it. So that's how I try to do it. And like I said, I'm always going to be open to people on the internet who have these problems. They want to talk about them. That's always good. But if you come at me and demand more and more of my time, then we're not going to, yeah, I'm back. Then I'm probably going to start answering in one word answers because that's where my line is. My line is I have a life. And I know you guys have lives. You have things you love to do, you have to spend time doing. I think none of us are going to spend 16, 18, 20 hours a day sitting in front of our computers, even though I know there are some that do. I just saw this. I can do this. It's driving me nuts. This is one thing that I do here in Costa Rica. I've got to show you. I keep a pouch with all the prescription boxes in here. Whenever I go to the doctor here, and going to the doctor here is a different experience, I bring this, even though these may not be things I'm taking now or my husband may be taking now. When they start asking me, how long were you on XYZ? I can say, well, I was on XYZ X amount of times. You take this to the pharmacy, pull out the box of the medicine you're looking for, and you don't necessarily have to speak Spanish. I try to speak Spanish every day. And people are very good about encouraging you, the locals are, when you're speaking it, even if you're doing pigeon like me. Like walking in the other day, my husband asked me to get him a big bag of Cheetos. The gas station, I went in there to get a drink. I got him a drink and a bag of Cheetos. I got myself a packet of nuts because I'm trying to take care of my health here. And put up to the counter, said, okay. I showed him the Cheetos and said, por mi esposo, for my husband. And yes, we're live. We were live earlier too. Now I'm telling Costa Rican tales. And then I said, por me, and pulled out my drink and nuts. And we laughed a little bit. A masterpiece. I don't blame you. I can be ridiculous like that too and I still haven't figured out how to use StreamYard. I'm going to have to just sit down and monkey around with it because I'm not that familiar with it. I tried to use it. I want to be able to use it because I want to bring Everybody Burps on here to talk about her experiences. Real friends don't demand times. They reach out and request your attention. Demanding never works well, in my humble opinion. I personally tend to avoid demanding people in general. I do too. But I got to say, for me, this has been a hard boundary to enforce because in my old quiverful life for like 15 years, when someone demanded your attention or demanded you do something for them, if you're a woman, you drop everything and go. I think the most onerous demand I ever had in those days is part one was just me talking about this very thing, and I'm trying to go back to it. My husband called. I had to take the call. If I'd have known he was calling me, but because he wanted me to change something on his fantasy football, I wouldn't have answered. I would have sent it right to voicemail. So there's that. There's that. Hey, Nitwit, I'd love to see you. Glad to see you here. So where was I? I was I was speaking Spanish, and gosh, I don't remember where I was on that. But just know if you can't speak Spanish and you're here, you got your little if you have your boxes, you're good, you're golden. Just bring them inside. I don't want this. Necesitamos. And point if you have to. So back to those relationships. I had my pastor call me up one day who when I was still fully drinking the Kool-Aid there, even though I did sort of start having some thoughts about how some of the things were BS, even though I hadn't expressed any of it except to my husband a little bit, and even him not that much. He called me one morning around 9:30. I actually had something I was supposed to be working on. I was supposed to be doing a website I was getting paid for. And he said, look, My wife is in our house crying because she's trying to clean up the house enough to turn it back to the rental people because the people who owned the rental wanted the house back. He asked me if I would drop everything and go over there and clean the place, which is what I did. I went over there and scrubbed and scrubbed and scrubbed, and she did a little bit, but I could tell it was just one of those weird, weird things where they just wanted somebody to come in and do their grunt work, and I did it, even though I was inwardly fuming. And there were so many times back then in that old church that people or things would be demanding. I think there was another one where they overstepped bounds with me. One of the things that I used to do in my old church was I made these enormous worship flags. I still have some. I'm getting ready to sneak kamikaze next week when I go back to the church. I'm going to bring a few and use them in the very back of the church, and I dare anybody to say anything to me about it. I am not clearing it with the pastor. I'm just going to do it. Hell with them. So these worship flags, some of the ones that I made were quite expensive. The material itself. I would do these ones that were 9 feet long, that were half round, made out of lame, and in the very center you would put some type of chiffon that had glitter embedded in it. Learning to say no without feeling guilty is something I haven't mastered it entirely yet either. That's why I'm here ranting about this. I haven't mastered it. So I would make those things. So the ones that were the 9 foot long lame ones with the chiffon in the center, those, the material alone ran like $60 to make one of those because it's lame is not cheap. Why am I trying to turn off the AC with my cell phone? Such how dinged out I am today. So I had a ton of those. I had a ton of flags. And every time I would go away to a conference, people would ask me about my flags. And I would say, well, they're $120 each if you want to buy one, and I'll sell it. But this is just my thing. This is the thing I like to do. And I would get people that would ask me how I did it. And I would explain because I had a very simple method for making these things that worked for me. It's snowing there. Oh, it's hot here. I got the AC on. Does that tell you something? I'm drinking a Diet Coke over ice, and I got the AC on, and I got super short sleeves on. So it's really hot here. But rainy season has happened, so I'm very happy right now. They were lovely, but our pastor and the pastor's wife came to me one day and said, "We want you to make a dozen of those in every color of the rainbow for Tom Hauser's church in Wilmington, North Carolina. We want you to make a bunch of half round ones with the chiffon. We want you to make the big ones that you do, the long ones and all this." I think I spent about $1,000 in material, and I was grumbling the whole time because the church did not offer to reimburse me. They just said, "This is what you're going to do. This is what you're going to do." And that happened a bunch of times there. One time I made all of the costumes for one of the little productions they were doing, and not a penny was offered to me to do these things. It was pretty crazy. At least that time they did hand me the fabric. It was just I had to buy all the accessories and everything else. Half up front or nothing. Well, something with those flags, I did that. Or I would say, you pay me and then I'll provide it, because it was just, and it was always weird because people would always want to know, well, how did you make that? I explained to them how I did it. And then I would get phone calls and emails saying, mine didn't turn out right. I said, well, you can still buy one from me. It's like, no. Well, it takes a little sewing skill. It wasn't perfect. And it just was what it was. And they would make these demands. They'd want one for free. And it would be like, no, I don't give away that. It's too much work, too much fabric in it. So that was something that I still am angry about with the old church. If they offer to pay one damn dime towards any of the fabric. I was mad when my things finally got here, because one of the things that got shipped that was not supposed to go shipped, it was supposed to go to Goodwill, is I had a box full of chiffons and lame specifically for flags, and I decided I was just done with flags. just like I was done with church and everything else, which turns out not quite to be the same thing. I always say that's why my blog is called Every Breaking Wave, because the song by YouTube, Every Breaking Wave, it kind of describes what my relationship with God was like after I left my old church. It's like you go your way and I'll go mine, sort of thing going on. And it was really a sad thing. And I've managed to do a 180 degrees where I'm going back to church again sometimes when the rates are low. And I'm embracing the spiritual side of myself that I haven't done in a long, long time. And it helps that my husband is actually starting to get with the program. So, anyway, long story short, that's where my lines are. My lines now are if somebody asks me to make those flags again, I'd say, sure, but I'm going to need you to buy the fabric, get the fabric to me. You're going to need to buy X amount of reels of thread because it is takes a lot of thread because you have to what to the flags or to my blog. I'll put the link up to my blog, but you're going to probably be bored because I'm mostly whining and griping about things that happen here. Like the thing with my friend who I haven't heard from in ages, who I had to run her around for like 2 or 3 weeks to get drugs for her back. I haven't heard from her. She hasn't made any more demands. She was trying to get my husband to do all these mechanical things. I had to explain to her that my father used to call my husband Homer Simpson with a PhD because his practical skills were nil. But he was so intellectual, he was so educated, he could do X, Y, and Z for you, but he couldn't do practical things. He's still like that. I'll put my blog in there too. He's still like that. He's a great guy, but he does not have any skills as far as anything practical. Now, I have required him to step up and do some things when we moved here because the asthma A and B, I did all that stuff the whole time we were married. We were in the States because of the fact that he worked long hours. He commuted back and forth to DC about 80 miles every day. Was she the one who wanted you to shop for her and you finally had to say no? Yes, 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 yes. Oh, uh, she was the one that gave me the 4-page shopping list. And I finally just said, I will go to Maxi Pali, which Maxi Pali here is a Walmart subsidiary. So you walk in there and there's all this great value products. We hit them up frequently because some things they are very cheap on. Cat food, they're the cheapest. Juice for my husband, they're the cheapest. There's some ridiculously cheap things in there. So we tend to be pretty tight with the dollar. We always have been, which is kind of weird living here because there's some things here we're not tight with the dollar. And sometimes the tight with the dollar, it really morphs into a knockdown, drag out argument. We had to replace our microwave this week. It died, and it was like a 15-year-old Panasonic that came with the house. And so we bought a new one. I researched it in Consumer Reports. I went to PriceSmart, and we had settled that it was going to be one of two. And we could not agree on which one or two. My husband and I couldn't. And there was like a $50 difference. Well, when I finally realized that the only difference between the two microwaves was the size, I said, okay, we can go with the cheap one. Sometimes people, they do take advantage of you. You're too nice. My husband that's one of his faults. He will do anything for anybody. And I've seen him go way, way out of his way. I finally had to tell her he has no mechanical ability. You're barking up the wrong tree if you think he's going to help you and that sort of thing. And while I had some mechanical ability, I am no longer doing those sort of things because of thalamic stroke. There's some things I just don't do anymore. And that kind of leads back to the whole having boundaries because I do exercise and I have physical therapy every day that I do here to improve, to feel better, to all of that. So, and it's kind of a weird thing living here because you really have to rely on your friends for a lot of things. I try not to ask too many favors. I try to do things like when the car's in the shop, I take the bus. It's a 1.5 block walk to the bus station. It's 40 cents in Tamarindo. It is a bargain. So I try to do that sort of thing more than ask for favors, but that's just how I am. And sometimes on days like yesterday, it was just all I could do to just be myself and do my thing because not only was it a bad asthma day, I was having a bad walk day, I was having a bad hand day, I was dropping shit left and right on the floor out there, and I just was like, whatever. I have enough other stuff going on that I don't have to worry about that. No mechanical ability either. It's sad for me. Oh, Noel, I'm sorry. And I used to do all the plumbing. I used to be the one to replace the wax ring, do that, do that. Since we're here, there's so many things that I hire people in for that I would have never have done in the States because the wages here are like $4 an hour. I don't even garden anymore. And I love to garden. I just fool with my potted plants. It's just cheaper. Have somebody come in and clean, do the heavy lifting cleaning. I do the day to day. We have someone that does the garden. We have somebody else that mows. We have people that come in and do all kinds of stuff. It's just easier for us. We're both senior citizens now. We're not quite as physically active as we used to be. And that's just really where our new boundary is. So don't be afraid to make a new boundary when it doesn't serve you, when what you're doing in the past does not serve you. I've had to do that a number of times here now, and I've also had to tell my husband, "No, you're pushing my boundary." Like somebody wanted to rent our guest house for a couple of months, and I was just like, "No, not happening." That's my boundary, and I am currently trying to put bushes between the guest house and us because one of the things that I think is that it would be nice to have a little privacy screen between us and them. And our guest house is where we put all of our visitors, and we do have a lot of visitors. I got people coming down for December and January, friends from the States. So I'm trying to work right now on getting the guest house back to order. So that's where my boundaries are too. So silly. It's life is such a weird thing, and it takes so much intentionality, and you have to decide early on. And like I said, if you get involved with a cult religion, it's really hard to have boundaries afterwards. I still struggle with that. Like I said, one time I had a sonogram, I guess it is, where they have the thing and they press it. A sonogram on my gallbladder because I was having gallbladder issues. And the lady I got said, because I go to UVA and teach in hospitals, "Do you mind letting so and so practice on you while we're waiting for our images to come back?" And I said, "No, indeed." Well, I shouldn't have said that because she bruised me up. I mean, my torso was black and blue when she was done. She literally bruised me up. So now I have to think, no, I can say no. Learning to say no is one of the biggest challenges, not just for myself, but for everyone. Like, so my husband can't say no. That's why he gets into all this stuff. But fortunately, the lady who broke the gate hasn't been by once, except one time. And that was the day she made the candy. And I asked her if it had peanuts, and she said no. And so she pretty much knows she's on our list, that she has gone past our boundaries and trampled on them. And we have put some in place now with her. It is. It's almost like they have ownership over your time through emotional manipulation. Noel, that is so true. That is got to be the truest thing I've seen here. And it's sad because the Ticos are wonderful people in a particular way, besides the fact they don't fight with you. Um, they will help you. If I had $1 for every time a Tico has helped me, I've fallen down or whatever. And I had to laugh one time I was at Costco Price Mart and I was getting all this crap and I had it in a basket and I was trying to put it in my back of my car and I had people stopping and asking if they could help me because I had a cane, I guess. And I was just like, no, I've got this. I've got this because I did have it. And I really didn't want to put anybody else out. They'll try to get you one of those little motorized carts. Nothing doing. I need to practice with walking. I need to walk with my cane on perfectly level ground. So Ticos are incredibly accommodating, but at the same time, I really don't want to take advantage of them. If I'm perfectly able to do something, I'm not going to twist their arm to do it for me, even though they're running up and offering it for me. So that's life here, and life trying to figure out boundaries. And it's interesting watching KJ get bitten by the boundary thing because she exploited her boundaries. She ran over the boundaries with Amy, and Amy had to put them back in place. And I always thought that her relationship with Amy was sort of like, oh, thank you. Yeah, it is my independent spirit. I think I have that heart. Her relationship with Amy was sort of like a mutually beneficial thing. I don't think it was really a friendship because Amy was using her to leak unflattering stuff about the Duggars that she wanted out there. And she was using Amy for clout and to be able to get more viewers, and because she had Duggar gossip, whether the Duggar gossip was true or not. So, you're exactly right, Lisa. There's a very fine line. Yeah, exactly. Same here. That's where I've started looking. Is it resentful? And truthfully, I don't mind getting groceries for neighbors who are quarantining because of COVID and they've come back from some place that's higher than Costa Rica, which is hard to believe. I don't mind doing it every now and then. I do mind when you hand me a 4-page list. That's when I start getting resentful. Says, okay, what is going on here? Why are you doing this? Amy was using her for advertising. Hey, bossy. I actually did one stream and my husband called. I got off and talked to him and then I came back. So there is that. I was talking originally by a comment I got where somebody was mad because I wouldn't pick up calls. They were calling me on, I think I know who it is. Somebody was calling me on Messenger. I don't pick up those calls if I don't know the person. If it's somebody I don't know well, I don't do it. If it's somebody I know well, I'll do it if I can. And I can't always, I'm not always sitting by my computer. Um, I don't always answer comments with more than 1 or 2 words because it's just overwhelming. This person doesn't understand that if you do anything even slightly public on the internet, people will contact you. And the nature of what I've done with the writing and stuff about Quiverful, I get contacted a lot. That's the reality. And example, I got up this morning and I had like 10 things sitting in my messenger from last night. I've answered one of them. The other ones I'm going to have to go back and answer or not answer as it requires. Um, thank you for liking it. I'm real bad about telling people to do the YouTube things, to like, share, whatever. So if you could do that, that would be good. I'm not KJ. I'm not going to bug anybody for a thing because I'm just grateful to be here. I am just grateful to be here and talking to you guys. I'm that's where I am. But I'm still trying to establish my boundaries with some people. And the reality is there are always going to be people that take advantage of your boundaries. There are always going to be people in your life who are going to tell you what your boundaries are going to be. One of the saddest things for me was when I started going to Toronto Airport Christian Fellowship and some of the charismatic movement revival type situations like conferences. I had a very close friend I love dearly, who called me up and told me, oh, thank you, Noelle. You have a good day too. She called me up and said, what's this I hear about you going to Toronto Airport Christian Fellowship? And I said, yeah, it's true. I have been. And I go to their conferences sometimes. And I like it. I like their conferences. This person said, well, you are going to have to pick. If you're going to be friends with me, You cannot keep going to any Toronto Airport Christian Fellowship things because they're demonic. And I had to tell her, it's like, Chloe, I love you, but our friendship, you cannot dictate what I do, what I believe. You just can't do that. It just doesn't work that way. That's not how friendships work. And I just said, I'm going to miss you. And it did. It killed the friendship hard. I never heard from her again after that. Not even when she was dying. And we had been good friends. How good of friends we were? We had long rainy afternoons. We had nothing to do. We would get some whiskey, some cigars, and get her air rifle and shoot cans all afternoon. We would go ride go-karts together for hours. She was unconventional as a Christian and so much more fun to be around than most of the ones at my church who were all submitting and wearing their little tight little their loose little jumpers and all of that. So sometimes when you have these relationships with people and you realize that they're not as emotionally invested in it as you, don't chase anybody. That's the other thing with I would want to say about relationships. Don't chase anybody. I used to chase people that I wanted to stand friendship with. And I realized recently in the last year or two, don't do that. Don't give away your power and chase them. Don't do it. If they want to be your friend, they'll come around. And that goes back to what I was saying about YouTube comments. I'm not chasing those creators that didn't reply to me, but it just is what it is. And I'm not taking that as a negative thing because it's really not. People have all kinds of things they must do and all that. I guess I'm going to go ahead and go. I've talked almost totally an hour here, I think, and I was like, oh, my voice is going. Okay, you guys, have a great day. Put your boundaries in place. Say no, 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 where you want to say no. Know that you don't owe anybody in this world an explanation, attention, or anything else. You don't. You can, it's total freedom out there, even though a lot of us don't realize it. I still struggle with it, as you know, from me talking about that woman and some other things going on. Okay, you guys, I am going to drop my blog link in the description here too. Have a great day. I'm going to be back at 4 o'clock with a husband who wants to talk about love after a lockup. And I have a feeling I won't say much. I'll turn it over to him. Okay, see you later.